Okay, I'm not going to be able to get to my friend Moosey Wilson just yet, but we're still hoping Moosey will come on board to give us some commentary. All right, now I'm just trying to figure out if my phone is slow. It seems to be kind of slow. I turn my head and it seems to take a second to react. Anyways, I'm doing this series of videos that started off being black sheep, like black sheep of the family, the local eccentric person, and the white sheep that I'm calling the sheeple, which are the people who really don't do too much other than graze on the pasture land and rely upon the shepherd and the collie dog to look after them. Okay, so if I have a black hat on in this series, the black hat is the black sheep, and the white hat is the sheeple people. Sheeple people. Sheep. Oh dear, I've run out of hats. So if I'm not going to wear a hat, then what am I going to talk about? Well, I got nothing else to talk about. So I'm going to bring out Moosey Wilson. Okay, here he is, Moosey Wilson. Okay, well, Moosey lives in a place called Lookout. And he's known as a swamp donkey. Okay, and we've got a Red Cross hat. This is also known as part of the flag of Switzerland. Is that Switzerland? Yes, since 1291, I guess Switzerland has been around. And what has Moosey Wilson got to do with Switzerland or the Red Cross? Moosey? Moosey says, well, we're talking about sheep, sheeple people, and black sheep. And Moosey is pretty much, a moose. He doesn't even know what a sheep is. Moose live in heavy bush, and sheep don't. So no wonder Moosey's never heard of a sheep, or a sheeple, or a black sheep. Where I live, there are moose. When I was a boy, I was home from school because I wasn't feeling well. And I might have been 10 years old. And I got out of bed because my mom said, come quick, come downstairs. I got out of bed and I went down the stairs. And we looked out into the backyard. And lo and behold, in our backyard, there was a full-grown moose. I live in a city of 110,000 people. I don't live on the outskirts. This moose followed, I think he followed the banks of a river. That's how he got into the city, because the river area was kind of parkland, and I think that's how he came, because we live close to this river. And another time, I was out into a remote area in the bush, and It was a what we call a lake trout lake, very deep lake. I don't know, maybe 120 feet deep, and it was a spring-fed lake, so it was very cold. We were fishing, um, probably maybe let's say end of July, and the lake was still icy cold because it was spring-fed, and well, we had about a 18-foot open boat with a 20 horsepower motor, and I was about maybe 13 when my uncle took me and my cousins to this place. And, we were trolling for lake trout, and we were way off in the middle of this lake, easily a mile offshore. And lo and behold, what did we see swimming across this enormous lake a mile from shore? A moose. This water was so cold, and this moose was swimming from one side of the lake to another, a mile offshore. So we followed this moose as it swam. It was something to see. It took quite a long time, but they're very good swimmers. A moose. Eventually we got back to fishing, but we kept our eye on the moose. And as it got close to shore, we speeded up, went over to look at and watch it get out of the water. And I was totally amazed because this moose finally got to shore. It was still in the water, and it started coming out of the water, out of the water, out of the water, out of the water, and out of the water, and out of the water. I couldn't believe how big this moose was. My eyes were just, oh, that's such a big moose. Now, at the shore of this lake, there were no cottages on this lake. It was a lake that we had to portage the boat into. In other words, we went up a river, and then there was like a small, very small waterfall, rapids area. And so we had to take the boat out of the water and then bring it on a dolly up. A dolly is where you put the boat onto some wheels. It's just left there for boaters. And then we went around this area and then put it back in the river and then up. So you couldn't drive into this lake. You had to use a boat. So I think we were the only people in the lake that day. And surrounding this enormous lake was thick bush. Very, very thick bush. So thick that for you to go through it, very difficult. Because the trees are not very big trees. Some of them were big, but in between the bigger trees, there were small brushy trees. So, for you to go through there, the brush would be getting in your head, and you couldn't really get through. It was so dense. And this moose was so strong, so unbelievably strong, it just barreled right through this thick brush and disappeared into the brush. It was just fascinating, these creatures. So what do moose have to do with my topic? Why am I wearing a red cross? The answer is we're in search of other kinds of animals besides sheep. Because there are other kinds of humans besides black sheep and sheeple people. Oh, what kind of people are there besides black sheep and sheeple people? Not so much moose people, but there are people who are good actors. Good actors can play a character, and the character might be a sheeple or it might be a black sheep. So an actor is a different kind of human altogether. And what's the Red Cross about? The Red Cross is about why do we want to have people? Mostly because people are born here. I know, but that's not why we want to have them here. Clearly, they're being born here. But some people say um, humans are a parasite on planet Earth. They do horrible things. They hurt the environment. There's way too many humans, way overpopulated. And so what does it mean? It means there's a lot of humans that are not acting. They really feel this way. In search of anything else to tell you, I want to remind you pretty much everyone on the planet today doesn't know why they're here. You're born here, and when the question comes up, you know, do you think that maybe you chose to be born on the planet? It does come up sometimes when people are talking about this idea of reincarnation. I think a lot of people just say, you were a sperm and an egg, and you formed and you didn't have a mind, and then it wasn't until you were growing that you developed a mind and a personality. So, there's really no reason to believe that there was any part of you that chose to be here as a human. So, if it's just a random thing that you know, happen to be conceived and born, then, you're really just kind of a random act, an accident. I don't know what else to tell you except these kinds of ideas are not too good for people because people that believe these things are getting it in their head that, you know, we need to clean up this accident of all these humans. First, we have to corral all the people. And then we're going to see if we can get rid of a lot of people. That's how we're going to clean this place up. We're going to get rid of a lot of humans. Please stay tuned for part 2 of this episode.